Good evening, everybody. I'm having trouble with the streaming software. I don't know why, but it's being a pain in the butt. Oh, I'm so annoyed with the streaming software right now. Anyway, I'm going to try and fix this, and in the meantime, have a listen to this whilst I try and sort this out. Sorry, folks.
I can't wait for when you're home. There'll be wine and sweet recline. Close my eyes, see the sailors spend their pay. My heart cries, but I could never walk away. And my world fills up with lights. And so I say, oh, but I'm gonna do what's right. We'll drink wine, everything's just fine. My Chanel, do you not know? No matter where you go, we'll walk hand in hand into our promised land. Yeah, My Chanel, do you not know? No matter where you go, we'll walk hand in hand to our promised land. My Chanel, to our promised land.
Hello, everybody. We're having some problems with the streaming tonight. I don't know why. The last several streams for the last 2 years have been absolutely fine, but YouTube have decided to introduce this brand new way to stream, and frankly, I don't think it works. So you should now be able to see me, and you should now be able to hear me, hopefully. Make sure if you're watching at the bottom of your screen where it says live, give that a click there. If it gives you the pointy finger to do so, then just do that, and that will make sure that you are up to the same point that we are, and not like seconds behind. Anyway, I apologize if you heard me say very, very naughty, sweary words, but this has been very frustrating, to say the least. But it's the new way, and it would seem you can't just do it the old way anymore. I don't know. But what I've discovered is I have to put in the new stream key every time, which is really annoying. I've not had to do that before. Basically, I've just had to have just one stream key, and all I do is I hit start stream in OBS, and YouTube catches the stream, and away we go. But for some reason, it's not like that anymore. I don't know why. And I have a little preview, but the new preview window is miles behind. So I can't even see in real time what's going on. So, which is a little bit annoying. But there we go. Face for radio, says RJ Hagler. Thank you very much. I'm trying very hard not to get frustrated because all of my shows have just been really easy to do, and it's frustrating when it just doesn't work properly. Bobby Booth says, just when you get used to it, then they change it. Yeah, well, I've been very used to how quickly and how easily you can get streaming going in YouTube for the longest time, but they've launched this thing called YouTube Studio Beta, which they've been running for a wee while, and gradually it's been rolled out across pretty much everybody's YouTube platform. Everybody's YouTube channels are beginning to get it, and they also launched the new streaming dashboard. And to say it's a pain in the butt is an understatement. It means what I've discovered tonight is I can't schedule like I normally do. I would normally schedule a show and then off it goes. And it seems I can't do that anymore for whatever reason. So that's my rant off my chest now, and I don't even know if chat is updating live or what at the moment. So I'm really sorry, folks. This is going to be less than kind of the show that I would normally put out. So by the time we get to the end of this show, I may actually take it down. I don't know. I'm yet to decide. I will decide once I've watched it back. And if I decide, hey, you know what, it's gone wrong too much, then I will pull the show. So anyway, I've spent most of the evening trying to get this going, and getting gradually frustrated as the time has gone by, up to the start of the show. So I'm really sorry, folks. So anyway, I guess what we'll do is we'll just leap straight into your questions, rather than kind of having what we would normally have, is we'd normally have a talking point. I guess the talking point has been update to YouTube and YouTube streaming and how it doesn't really work particularly wonderfully well. I will feed that back to YouTube because I am on the YouTube beta, and I'll feed it back to them and tell them, hey, this just doesn't work properly. It's nowhere near as good as it used to be. So anyway, let's get to your questions on songwriting, mixing, mastering, all facets of music production, and we'll go from there. I do have Studio One open, so we can get to that if we want to. Beatrice says, my 2-year-old granddaughter was dancing to your song. She says she likes it. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. That was, if you're wondering what the song was, that was Chanel from my 2016 EP Belonging to Tomorrow, which is still available, by the way, if you decide to go get it. You may or may not want to do that, but I can see from the chat, I've got the chat up on the big screen tonight, but I also have my other laptop over here as well, because I wasn't really sure how this was going to work, so I had to open up Chrome on my computer, and I don't like opening Chrome when I have the show on as well, because it just, Chrome eats up a lot of RAM. So anyway, who do we have here tonight? Bobby Booth was the first one in the door, I think, pretty much. And followed by Just Bob and Dwayne552. Good to see you. And RJ Hagler, obviously, is here. And who else do we have? Vital is here. Vital Caron. Good to see you, mate. And who else do we have? And we have Dooley Still is here. And Tony is here. Some guys are still in the other rooms. Yeah, please go and drag the other folks from the other room. I'm really sorry about that. That was like a schedule that I normally set up. And for some reason, I couldn't get OBS to stream to my schedule. And that's where the root of all of this problem has been, is that I think we kind of had that last week as well. And I wasn't really sure what was going on, but now I know what's going on. I have to set up a fresh stream and stream key every time, it would seem now, which is really annoying. So there we go. Let's see. Yes, thank you to JB for guiding everybody here. I would say in future, folks, rather than being on whatever page I have scheduled that is waiting with the countdown timer and everything else, I would just say stay on my channel. Just go to my channel and kind of like wait there and hit the refresh button until you see the live stream come up, or until you get the notification. If you are subscribed to the channel and you hit the notification bell, when you see that wee notification, you click the notification. That'll take you straight to the live stream and to the correct place. Or you can just wait on my YouTube channel and hit the refresh button until you see the live stream coming up as an option for you to watch, and then you just click that and it'll take you straight to the show. That might be a better way to do it. So I don't think I will be scheduling shows going forward. I think what I'll be doing is I'll just be creating a fresh one every night, every week rather. And I may have to do some further testing on this to see if I can kind of get a new workflow that will work going forward. So thank you very much, guys, for getting everybody over here. We got 17 people in here, which is very cool. Vital Karan says, about brass section, do you use 3 brass for each of the 3 notes of the chords? It depends. If I'm writing for a large ensemble, brass ensemble, then I might do something like that, yes. But not necessarily always. It kind of depends upon how thick or thin I want the texture to be. If I want a really, really big, fat sound, then yes, I might have, you know, a tenor horn, a trombone, and, you know, a couple of cornets on each of the 3 notes of a triad, maybe. And, you know, kind of then I'd have baritone horn, and then the basses, the euphoniums, and that kind of thing, bringing up the rear on the lower notes. If I'm writing for brass band, that's how maybe I would do it. If I'm writing for a horn section or for a big band, that's a little bit different. It's a little bit more complicated voicing for a big band. Usually what you have in a big band arrangement setting is you'd have your trumpets and your trombones as your brass, and then your reeds would be your saxophones. And so quite often you have those 3 sections kind of working opposite each other. So if you've got the melody and the trumpets, you'd maybe have the trombones playing chords or kind of some kind of syncopated figure underneath the melody, and then when the saxes take up the melody, then trombones and trumpets would maybe take up backing that melody. And so you trade those 3 things through the arrangement usually, unless you're going to go through a whole sort of, maybe the last section of your piece would be for the whole ensemble to play together. Then you'd have everybody playing together. RJ Hagler says it seems good now. Well, that's good. I'm glad it's kind of settled, although YouTube is warning me that the bitrate is too low, or is lower than the recommended bitrate. Well, there's nothing I can do about that. That's just my internet speed. My internet speed is fast enough to do this, but it's not like uber quick. And YouTube recommends a stream bitrate of 4,500 kilobits per second, which you have to have really seriously fast internet to do that, and I have pretty fast. It's 20 megs per second up load and 75 down, so it's reasonably quick. It's certainly quicker than it used to be back at the old place. So yeah, so that's that. Let's see, do I have any other questions? Mika Han is here. How could I miss the show? Typing with one hand due to some hand paralysis. Oh dear, that's not good. That's not very pleasant at all. I hope you get better soon, and I hope that the paralysis clears up pretty quick. That must be pretty debilitating. I'm sorry about that. Sorry to hear that news. Let's see. Mika says, no, still in hospital. Might need some spinal surgery. Yeah. You were talking about that on Johnny's show the other night, weren't you? Your wife on your behalf. I hope your recovery is ongoing and is going well. But by the looks of it, you're going to need some spinal surgery, which will be that's pretty serious. And certainly, Mika, I want you to know that everybody here and everybody that is a subscriber of mine on my channel and on my email list, we are right with you and right behind you. And we're standing with you in prayer and support. And we just want to encourage you and build you up. So I hope that my show and Johnny's nightly shows are helping you and encouraging you, and we'll continue to do that. And by all means, Mika, reach out to me on Facebook or on email if there's anything else I can do to help you. We'll certainly do that. Mika says, right collarbone crushed and reassembled, and which has led to left-hand paralysis. Right, sounds like maybe a nerve has got pinched or something there. In the process of repairing your collarbone. That's nasty. So we've got 22 people here by the look of it, I think. I think it's 22. Is it 22? Somebody tell me, is it 22? Is it 22? I'm going to go, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. On my laptop. Yeah, 22. 22 and 6 likes. That's pretty cool. And by all means, I'm going to say, folks, if you find my live streams useful, then please do hit the super chat button and chuck a few bucks my way. It always makes a difference. It enables me to carry on doing these shows, and it also enables me to kind of improve what I do as a whole as Johnny Lipscomb Studios and the ways in which I can serve you. Because I've got some things up my sleeve. Yes, I've got some things up my sleeve. I've got some things that I'm working on, things that I'm developing, and some new stuff that's going to be coming out over the course of this year. Among them is a new EP, which is going to be coming out in July. And I got a few other surprises that are coming as we go through the course of the year. I'm working on building a couple of new things, and I've got some new products as well, which are going to come out as well, which you will be able to purchase from my new landing page, which will be coming soon. I'll tell you all about the new stuff and the new products and how you can get hold of them a little bit closer to the time that I launch them all. So I'm really excited by all the stuff that's going to be coming your way. And I'm going to be doing live streams featuring those things as well. So you'll get to see what they are and how you can get them a little bit closer to the time. But I thought I'd give you the heads up and let you know that there's some new stuff coming coming your way. Okay, keep the questions coming, guys. And happy to demo some stuff in Studio One. Absolutely. We can open up Studio One and get into that. In fact, whilst we have Studio One open, maybe I could give you just a little bit of a sneak preview, maybe, of a song that I am working on that is new. And I've really only got like bare basic scratch tracks recorded into Studio One so far. It's just kind of like the rough sketched out idea. It's a little bit different, and it'll maybe give you a little bit of a flavor as to what my next record is going to be a bit like. So if you guys are up for that, I will give you a little sort of 10-15 second snippet of what's coming. There's not really a lot to listen to at the moment. It's just kind of like a roughed out keyboard part, a fake bass part, and some program drums. Nothing really to write home about just yet, but it certainly gives you a flavor of kind of where I'm going to be going musically next with my next EP, if you're interested in that. Hang on just a second. Before I do that, I need to press that button on my laptop over there. Oh, I've still got the chat open from the other stream. That's why it wasn't working. That's why my chat on my laptop was not updating. It's because it was on the other stream. So I'm going to play this for you in just a second, guys. Everything is being really, really slow today. Or not working at all. Mika says, can we hear those snippets? Yes, you can. Bobby says, is that your VIP site or something else? It's kind of a bit of both. I know a lot of you have been waiting for a very long time for word on my VIP, which kind of had to be shelved for quite a while, unfortunately. But it is actually being worked on again, and we're probably going in a little bit of a different direction with it, because where we were going with it wasn't really working. There were just too many problems, certainly with integration with the different services I needed to work together in the VIP site to make it work, so that you know, I'm able to take automatic payments, and that was the thing that was not working and holding us up. And the landing pages weren't working. So we are getting it working now, and we're pretty much moving it all to a different platform, which would hopefully make everything a lot easier and a lot quicker, and we can build it a lot quicker, and yeah, it should be a lot better than it is at the moment. That's for sure. So, and I should be able to launch it pretty soon, hopefully, because as I say, I'm rebuilding it in this new platform, and it's going to be a lot better than I even thought that it could be. So I'm still talking to the guys I've got helping me build it in the back end, as to what's possible, what's not possible with this new platform, and hopefully in the next couple of months, 2 or 3 months maybe, we'll have something concrete, and I can actually show you it, and then we can launch it, and you guys can get yourselves involved in it if you're up for that. Dilly says you should point your camera so that it points lower, no higher than headphones. Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll maybe go and adjust that for the next show. Vital says, I would like you to explain again how you set up your bus and effects channels. Okay, I can do that as well. All right, so I'm gonna play you a little bit of this new tune of mine. So I'll take you into Studio One, and that's totally the wrong button. There we go. That's the button I wanted. So hopefully now you guys should be able to see Studio One. And I'm going to play you some audio from that. I don't have a title for this, really, particularly, at the moment. I'm just playing with words at the moment. But this is kind of like the earliest idea. This is kind of where I start when I'm writing a song. I mean, I think I said on Songwriting Simplified that I have like the whole thing mapped out in my head of how I want the whole thing to sound eventually at the end. But actually getting it into Studio One is in like maybe 2 or 3 different phases. And this is kind of like the very first phase where I just map stuff out into Studio One so that I've got the whole kind of arrangement in there, the whole thing mapped out. And then I start adding different instruments in. So basically, this is going to be the verse. I don't have the chorus in here as yet, but this is going to be the verse. And then we'll bring in the chorus and the solo section, and then we'll start using the arranger track to move things around and copy things and that kind of thing. The arranging track will make this whole process a lot smoother. So as you can see, this is in 5/4, but it's kind of it's not like take 5 5/4. And I think I did last week. We looked at editing drum loops to fit different time signatures. So bringing in a 4/4 drum loop and then editing it so that it fits into 7/8 or 5/8 or 3/4 or whatever. Well, this is a little bit different. I actually programmed a groove in 5/4, but it's based off of a groove which is in 4/4, which is the Bernard Purdie Shuffle, featured on Steely Dan songs such as Babylon Sisters and Home at Last and songs like that. But it's a pretty famous little groove of his. And I've kind of adapted it so that it's in 5/4. So anyway, have a listen to this. Alright, so there you go. That's kind of where it's up to so far. There's still some work to be done on it, obviously. Like there's a chorus to build out there, and then there's other instruments to add into the arrangement to really make this groove nicely. But yeah, so this is a start of a song. Doesn't have, as I say, doesn't really have a title as yet. And I've got some lyric ideas that are forming in my head and a narrative. Oops, banging the mic. But as you know, I'm kind of like a narrative style songwriter. That's kind of how I do my songs. There's a storyline, there's a plot, there's a scene, there's characters, and I kind of create these characters and then I chuck them into this scenario and see what happens to them, and that's how the song gets written. And it's usually some kind of crazy, bizarre story, or the characters are quirky, or there's a particular personality there that I think is ripe for mocking, so I mock this character endlessly throughout the song. So that's kind of how I do things songwriting wise. So yeah, that is the new tune. And there are going to be 5 songs on the EP. And I'm looking forward to getting the other songs going. They're all going to be kind of a little bit different like that. So, odd time signatures are going to feature pretty heavily in the EP. But it's not going to be completely and utterly unmusical in as much that, it can't be listened to by the average ordinary person. And, there'll be plenty to hang your hat on, so to speak. So there you go. Let's see, what was the other question? Vital said, I'd like you to explain again how you set up your bus and effects channels. Okay, we can certainly do that for sure. Let's see. Let's go back to Studio One. Just Bob says, has a cool kind of walking through the city like New York with your crew. Everyone knows who you are and you're walking very tall. I like that. I like that. I like that kind of idea, that kind of scene. I like that very much. Okay, let's go back to the start page. And I will open up the Paper Deity Mixing Series song. And we're getting into the business end of this, actually. Certainly in terms of mixing the buses, we're getting into the business end of this. I'm just going to check how I'm doing CPU-wise. Okay, we're doing good. Yeah, we're not burdening it too terribly much. I can go and close that first song. That's probably not a bad idea. Let's go and close that, and we won't save. And that just keeps everything nice and fresh. Okay, so how do I set up my buses? It kind of comes as a template. This is kind of like my mixing template. Granted, this is my song originally. And basically what I do is once I've got all of my audio tracks in, I color code them, and then I route them to buses. And so I have, even if there's just like a single instrument, like a bass guitar, it has its own bus. Or, you know, there's just like a single keyboard instrument, it has its own bus. I know, it's you know, on its own, but I still want it to run through my busing system. So that everything is nice and neat and organized, and I haven't got just like an individual channel all on its own, just going straight to the main output. I want it to run through my busing system. It just makes things more organized. Certainly for me, anyway. Personally, I just like to organize things that way. So, so I have I've got two lead vocal parts here. Basically, one is a double track of the other. A second performance of the lead vocal, and I have those both going to a lead vocal bus, and then I have BVs going to their own BV bus, and then the tenor sax, this pink guy here, is going to its own bus, even though it's on its own. Then my two horns are going to their own bus. The Hammond and the Rhodes are going to theirs. Guitars I bus together, and then the bass, even though again it's a lone instrument, it still goes to its own bus. And then drums, I have the drums and the overheads going to their own bus. And then percussion, which is basically, in this case, it's a tambourine and hand clap thing. And that goes to its own bus. So here's my buses here. So I've got my lead vocal bus, my BV bus, and so on, all the way down the line. But then I also have a whole bunch of these brown channels here that have got the letter P in front of each one. And that basically that denotes that these are all parallel buses. So this is how I do my parallel compression. If the song needs it, if the song doesn't need it, these guys get deleted. If I don't need them, I don't need them. I get rid of them. But as you can see, a lot of the channels here, they have a pre-fader send. Going to P horns in the case of these guys, or P keys, or P drums, or P guitars, or whatever, and they're going to these channels here. Now these channels are all turned down because I don't need them yet. We're not quite at that point where I want to start doing the parallel compression. But what I will do is I'll bring in a whole bunch of compressors, mostly 1176s. I'll maybe use this guy, the DC1A version 2. I'll maybe use the MJUC, and I'll maybe also use the Brainworks Opto, and of course the Fat Channel 1176, or the Fat Channel Fairchild, or the Fat Channel LE2A. Those will, you know, those different compressors will get used depending upon kind of like the tonality and the coloration that each one of those adds to my parallel buses. And then I basically just tuck these in underneath. I blend these in with the original signals, and you get some extra perceived loudness, a little bit of extra excitement. So a song like Paper Deity should have just a little bit of extra oomph and extra lift compared to the original mix. Now when we get to the end of this series, we are going to compare my new mix with my original mix. That could be quite educational. Quite interesting to see how different they are, or how similar they are. So that'll be the last video of the series when we get to that point. So I hope that that is helpful. Bobby says, you used the Waves NS1. What did you use before you got it? I didn't. If I had noise, I had noise. I would maybe use the expander, the Presonus expander here. That would sometimes help clear up some noise. Yeah, that's kind of what I would use rather than a gate. The thing with a gate is really abrupt. It's either open or it's closed. And there's kind of no in between. Whereas an expander is kind of it's more like an upwards compressor. So kind of like you can set it to kind of be a little bit more transparent and a little bit less kind of if you take the analogy of a door for the moment, or a gate, which is why a gate is called a gate. It's because it kind of opens and shuts. So if a gate is kind of like it's either open or it's closed, an expander is kind of like a bit like a gate, except it's kind of it can be a little bit slower in closing. It can be a little bit more loose. It can be a little bit, it can be a little bit ajar, and that's okay. The door can be a little bit ajar, and that's okay. You know what I mean? So it's more like it's like a moving fence rather than a gate that's just kind of open, shut, open, shut, open, shut. An expander's much more kind of chilled out. So that's what I would have used if I didn't have the Waves NS1. And I rather suspect the Waves NS1 is a mixture of, it's probably a dynamic EQ, I rather suspect. It just detects what those noisy frequencies are and then compresses them. That's what I suspect it does. So it's probably that kind of a thing. So I hope that answers that question. And Vital, I hope that answers your question as well about how I set up my buses. Oh, I didn't talk about my effects channels, did I? That's because I don't have them in yet. In this song, I don't have them in. Basically, how I mix is I don't have any reverbs or delays or anything like that in until the mix is pretty much done. And then I allow myself to be creative and have some fun with some parallel compression, have some fun with some reverbs and delays. Different mix engineers do it differently. I know my good friend Warren Hewitt, he would have reverb, he would add in reverbs and delays as he goes. Whereas I kind of like, hey, this is kind of like, for me, this is the icing on the cake. Once I've built out the whole mix, then I go to town on reverbs and delays and parallel compression and all of the creative fun stuff. So I hope that has answered your question and has been helpful, useful information. We've got 23 people still here, which is very cool, and 11 likes. That's awesome, folks. Thank you very much, by the way, everybody, for making your way over from the stream that wasn't working to this one, which is working. So glad we got it working. And I just need to remember how to do this next week. And so, so any more questions, folks? Because it is now just after 1:45 in the morning here. So we've got about 15, 20 minutes or so left. It'd be great if we could get some more questions going. Absolutely. And I'm looking at all of my chats. Bobby says, been trying to follow you for plugin, but what I don't have, I'll use something else and try to get the same sound, which is very hard. Yeah, Bobby, you can absolutely do it that way. Try and copy me blow for blow, step for step. But I think personally, I would advise maybe trying to do it your way, because my way is kind of, well, I don't know many people that mix my way. Let's just say that. And so, but yeah, by all means, kind of like take some of the ideas and some of the techniques that I use, but give them your own Bobby Booth twist. Absolutely. I know that this kind of music, this kind of style of music may be unfamiliar territory for a lot of you guys that are involved in mixing this. And if you are not, and you would like to be, after this show's finished, go pay a visit to the video series, and in the description box of all of the videos, so just hit any one of those videos, go to the description box, and in there is a link to the Dropbox folder where you can get the multi-track files and you can download them. You can get them into Studio One or whatever DAW you use, and you can mix to your heart's content if you're up for doing that. I would be glad for more people to be involved in mixing it. So, and you know, by all means, you can certainly post. If you're on Facebook, by all means, message me with links to your SoundClouds, wherever you've posted up your mixes. That'd be cool. Or you can email them to me at johnny@johnnylipsonstudios.co.uk. It'd be really cool to hear different approaches that you guys have to the song. Ken Moss is here. He says, do you ever listen to Randy Newman? Yes, I do, actually. His approach to songs, especially narrative lyric, is very similar to what you do. Well, that's very kind of you to say so. Yeah, Randy writes a lot of really great songs for films. And I know particularly a lot of his songs have been featured in the Toy Story films. And he really knows how to get to the heart of a character and develop a story. Like, there's the really sad song from, I think it's Toy Story 2, which is Jess the cowgirl, her backstory, set to a song. Really, really great, actually. Really great idea with that was to tell her story rather in dialogue than to tell her story through a song. I think that was a great idea with a montage showing the events from this, from her life. I thought that was a really, really great idea because it really made her story really impactful. And it's a beautiful song written by Randy, but not sung by him in that instance. But it was a beautiful song and beautifully written and a beautiful performance by, I forget the vocalist that performed it for the movie. But yeah, he writes beautifully. I love his songwriting. He's not necessarily a great vocalist, but does that really matter? Bob Dylan's not a great vocalist either, but he writes spectacular songs and has had huge hits with his songs. So, And Deer Creek Audio is here, mid-century clarinet. I'm not quite sure what that means, to be honest. Do I have a mid-century clarinet? What, you mean from the 1950s? No, I don't. My clarinet is actually quite modern. I think mine's a 1980s clarinet, but anyway. Just Bob says, so what's the secret to make each track sound so crisp and clear? With your mixing style, hardly any effects are used on the track. Take bass, for example, punchy and clean and balanced. It's I think the big secret is to get it right at the source. I know Joe Gilder, my good mate over in Nashville, he gets this and he preaches this all the time. Get it right at the source. And I totally agree with him. And, Graham talks about it as well. He talks about the importance of, devoting the majority of your time in the songwriting phase and the recording phase. Get it right there. Spend as much time as you can on perfecting how it sounds. Because then that means you will need a lot less time to mix it, because the recording is really, really good. The song itself is really, really good. And the performances are really, really confident and full of energy and full of life, because you have the song so deeply ingrained in you because you've spent a lot of time working with it, to the point where, I think Dean Parks, when he was interviewed for the Classic Albums show for Steely Dan's Asia record, he said that what they would do with Donald Fagen and Walter Becker's songs is that they would rehearse for 3 hours in the morning, and they would take the song up to perfection, and then they'd go and have lunch, and then they'd come back after their lunch hour, and then they would push the song past perfection to the point where it sounds improvised, and that's when they hit record. So they spent, 3-4 hours rehearsing the song, getting it sounding as good as humanly possible, and then they'd hit record. And that's why that record sounds so freaking amazing. It's not just the great mixing by, I think it's Roger Nichols and Elliot Shiner that mixed Asia. And so it's not just the mixing that makes it sound good. It's Roger's recording techniques, and it's also the great songs, and it's also the great performances, because they spent so long rehearsing it and getting it to sound incredible. That's what makes that work. And so, I've learned from listening to those great records and taking into account that that's probably the process. That's probably how it's done. If you want to get a great song that is easy to mix, you record it really, really well, and you write a really, really great song that makes performing so much easier. If you really like the song and you really engage with it as a performer, as a musician, then you're going to capture really fantastic performances, especially if all the mics are in the right place, all the levels going into the preamps is correct. Then, devoting all of that time to getting that sound on the way in, just kind of means that when it comes to mixing, you just basically just pushing up the faders and turning the pan knobs and a little bit of trim maybe, and minimal EQ, minimal compression. You don't need a lot. So I think that's what I did with my EP. That's my phone vibrating away. I think my good friend Mike Neighbor is messaging me. I'll talk to him in just a minute. So that's kind of how I got that, Bob. How I got my songs to sound like that is I spend a lot of time in the recording phase, and I spend a lot of time arranging my song. So I spend a lot of time dialing in the right tone for the bass, so that when I've recorded the bass, it's how I want it to sound before I start mixing. Let's see. When She Loved Me was Sarah McLachlan. Yes, thank you, Ken. I think you're absolutely right there, mate. Kirk McWright is here. He says, "Hey guys, Nap took me by surprise." Yeah, happens at my age sometimes. You know what? I'm coming up on 44, and it happens to me too. I've done that where I've been all set up to start streaming, and I've fallen asleep right here in the chair. And then an hour later I go, "Oh, hang on a minute. I'm supposed to be streaming." I've done that. So Kirk, I absolutely understand, my friend, but thank you for dropping by. RJ says, "Very interested in your no effects till later technique. Keep it all in control." Yeah, it certainly does. And it also means that when you do get to that point where the mix is pretty much there, you can have fun. Not that, all of the rest of it isn't fun, but you can really kind of let your hair down and go to town, and, you can mess about with different reverbs and different delays, and you can, mess around with shaping the creative aspect of things, Hey, I'm going to duck the reverb on the vocal. I'm going to use some sidechaining into the reverb so that the reverb is nice and big and spacious, except when I'm actually singing. So, or do that with a delay, for example. That, I might even try that. Heck, on this song, I might even try that with a delay. So, but yes, the other thing to say is that I'm not a massive fan of reverb. I'm just not a massive fan of reverb. I don't use it very much. And if I do use it, I use it very, very subtly. For me, reverb should be felt rather than heard. But, everybody's got their different flavors on that. Certainly back in the 70s, you had large amounts of reverb, lots of reverb times. That are quite lengthy, whereas I don't really go for that particularly. I like things to be relatively dry. That's just kind of my sound, I guess. I think I stumbled upon that by accident. I just kind of decided I liked not having reverb, so there you go. Bobby says, "I'm trying to learn the top-down method by following you, but I'm doing it my way also." Well, that's cool. Yep. Top-down isn't for everybody. But certainly it is something that is worth trying, even if you don't like it. certainly worth trying it. Then that way you can you can speak at least a little on it authoritatively and say, hey, yes, I am familiar with top-down mixing because I have done it. It's just not really the way that I like to work, and that's perfectly legitimate, and that's fine. I totally get that. Just Bob says, you run your bass directly into AudioBox, correct? How do you get the live through the amp mic'd sound, not an underpowered signal from direct plugin? That's because the AudioBox, the little AudioBox that is an ancient device now, sounds fantastic. It just does. It's not the Xmax Pre's that you get in some of the other interfaces that PreSonus makes, but it's still pretty good. The input section of the preamp is really good, and it helps that I have a really good bass and really good quality cables. But here's the thing: when I recorded the bass for my EP for Belonging to Tomorrow in 2016, I recorded live and direct. So sorry, live and direct. That's a stupid way to say it. Mic'd and direct. So I did both at the same time. And then what I did was I just bounced that down to one track because I liked how the combined, direct and amped sounded. So I combined the two, bounced it down to one track. So that's what you get when you get the multi-track files, is you get the bounce of the amp and the direct sound as well. So that kind of helps a little bit. But yes, I did use the AudioBox. I no longer have that device. My dad has that now, and he uses that for his recordings. I have the Studio 1824C, the USB-C device, which is very cool. I love it. It sounds fantastic. So yeah, so that's what I did do, and that's why that sounds so good. Sounds like a strong signal path. Yeah, you have to crank it a little bit. You have to crank the AudioBox a little bit to get a really good signal from direct in on a bass or direct in on a guitar. Deer Creek says, I think there's something to be said about a rehearsed take and sound, but a good engineer always hits record and captures those special moments too. Absolutely they do. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And there's plenty of bands, where there are bootleg records out there in the public domain somewhere where, the mic has just been kept live and the tape has kept rolling in between takes. And then they go to another take and it just sounds just as epic as the take that went on the record. Just Bob says, well, that explains why I haven't achieved that sound then. No bass amp. Well, you know what? If you don't have access to any third-party bass amp simulators, then certainly I would suggest going with PreSonus's Ampire and having a fiddle about with the settings with the bass amp, because it's actually pretty good. It's not nearly as nice as my Fender bass amp, which isn't here. It's my dad has that at the moment, because I've been doing some gigs over on his side of the Firth of Forth. Mika Han says all modern PreSonus inputs are transformerless with a sad face. They're all pretty high quality inputs, and they sound actually pretty amazing, to be honest. Mika says the mic/channel strip transformers have a lot to do with great bass recording plus one-track DI. Yep. I'd agree with that to a degree. So yeah, so there we go. So that's how I got the bass sound, and the saxophones, the soprano sax in the song that you just heard at the start of the show, that was recorded in my studio as well. And I just used a condenser mic parked about 1.5 feet away from the bottom third of the sax, and then just left it there. And we spent quite a lot of time. We spent maybe about 20-25 minutes dialing in the right level. And then once we got the right level, it was just a case of I think we did 5, 6, 7 passes And I just kept it looping. I just kept the solo sections looping, and he just kept on playing. And then, you know, by the end of it, I had like 7, 8, 9, I think 10 passes, and then I could just comp something out of that. And it worked really well. Deer Creek says, scroll up. My dad's clarinet I was asking about turned out to be a keeper. Oh, cool. Okay. That's awesome. We're kind of late on in the show. I don't really have time to go find your comment, but that's cool. Honestly, until Friday's show with Johnny Guy, I never noticed Empire had a bass amp. I'll be checking into those tonight. Cool. Mika says, big tip. The discontinued PreSonus Eureka has great transformers. Used prices are about $200. Worth every penny. Absolutely, yes. The PreSonus Eureka is a fantastic device. The ADL 600 and 700 are also great. They're also really good. Mike Neighbor has just popped in. He says, hey, dude. That's cool. Good to see you, Mike. I think you were in earlier as well, though. I think maybe you stepped outside for a wee bit. That's cool. All right, we are at the end of the show, unfortunately, Mike. But we have 26 people still here, which is awesome. And 14 likes. If I could get 26 likes, I'd be happy with that. 26 people in, 26 likes. That would be pretty cool. So yeah, if you've found tonight's show useful, whilst we are winding down for the evening, please do hit the super chat button if you are able to, and I could chuck a few pennies my way. I would appreciate it. Mike says I was following Bobby around. Oh, and of course, if you are a member of mixingmadeeasy.net. It was the coaching call tonight, I believe. If you're over on that, it was tonight. Yeah, so that's probably where some of you have been, and that's cool. Good numbers tonight. Yeah, absolutely. 26 people in here. I think the record is 31. I think that's right. I think it's 31. Is the record to beat. So, and we're only like 6 away from that, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty pleased with that. So yeah, so we're pretty much there at the end of the show tonight, and I'm going to say it again. I'm really sorry, folks, for the way the show started, and I apologize if anybody overheard any sweary words at the very start, because I was getting annoyed with YouTube. It's nothing to do with OBS. It was all to do with YouTube being a pain in the butt. So I hope that YouTube get that sorted out so that it works better. Just Bob says, really good show too. Don't delete it. Okay, just because you say so, Bob, I'm not going to delete it. Mika says, good show, Johnny. Glad I was able to make it. Yeah, I'm glad too. Love your ideas and that you share them. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that very much, guys. I appreciate your kindness and your patience, especially with the way the show started. Hopefully I'll get this ironed out, or at least if I can't get it ironed out and this is just the way it has to be, I'll work it out. But pretty much I will say, folks, and please do spread the word on this, next week for the show, there will be no scheduled thing for you to go and park yourself on and wait for it to start. Okay, that just won't be there. I'm not going to do that because that's what messed this up, I think. So what we will do is I will ask you to kind of be on my channel and hit the refresh button until you see the show go live, and then you can get yourselves in on the show that way. Because I think the scheduling thing just generates a whole different stream key, which for some reason OBS wasn't picking up, so I had to create a new thing. So hopefully this is going to be saved in YouTube, I hope. I'll find out at the end when we come off this. I'll find out where this is saved, and I'll make sure I get it into the Sunday Night Live playlist. That I'll do that as soon as the show is processed. It'll go over into the playlist, and then you should be able to catch the replay for those of you that want to. Just Bob says, thick Scottish accents for swearing sounds so cool. Yeah, I try not to do it because I know that there are some people of a more delicate disposition that watch my show, and also there might be younger people as well. I don't know that there are necessarily, but also YouTube are beginning to clamp down on sweariness, so I hear. Danish swear words are quite funny. Yeah, I've heard one or two Danish swear words, and yes, you're right, they are funny. I used to work with a couple of Danish big bands, maybe 22, 23 years ago, and we had a band leader who was very, very sweary, and he would swear in Danish, and it was hilarious. Yes, thank you, Ken, that's right. Thank you for confirming that. Dave Vignola said that the links get screwed up when they are posted too early. Yes, that's a big part of it, and that all needs to get reported back to YouTube, and they need to fix this so that it doesn't generate a new stream key. The stream keys should be connected, in my view. The stream keys should be connected to the channel and not to the individual stream, so that whenever I set OBS to stream, it automatically connects to whatever is scheduled, or it starts a brand new stream. It should just it should connect to whatever is scheduled, in my opinion. It should just find that and connect to that, rather than generating a new flipping stream key every time. So there we go. That's pretty much confirmed that for me. Thank you, Ken. So next week, just come in to my channel and, you know, keep hitting the refresh button until you see the show. Or the other thing to do is, hang on. The other thing to do is wait for the notification if you've hit the notification bell. Although that might take time. Sometimes they take a wee while to filter through. So probably the best bet for next week is just to be here on the channel and wait until you see the show go live. And okay, that means that the show will be a little slow kicking off, but that's okay. And my good friend Vatche from Recording Studio 9 has just arrived. Thanks for coming, Vatche. We're just finishing. Sorry about that, mate. But Vatche, it'd be great to catch up again. We had a really great chat a few weeks ago on Skype. It'd be really great if we could catch up again. That'd be fantastic. Kirk says, I've noticed pretty consistent numbers here, Johnny. I'm hoping to get a couple of my friends to join us, but 26 is respectable average. I guess I need to set alarm as well as reminder. Yeah, thank you, Kirk. I appreciate that. Right, I'm actually going to go now because it is now coming up on it is now 1:15 in the morning here, and my kids are on holiday, so it's the Easter holidays. That's the other thing that's just started, is the Easter holidays. So Mike says, can't you send the email like 50 minutes before the show? I can send an email out, absolutely. I will always send an email out before the show, although I didn't this week. But that will link you to the channel and not to the scheduled link, because if I do that to the schedule link, the same problem that we had this week will happen again. So yeah, if I send a link to the show, my OBS will generate a completely different stream key, and it will start streaming something, a different stream, rather than picking up the schedule. I don't know why they are disconnected, but they are disconnected. So the easiest thing to do is just set your alarms or set a reminder on your phones or on your computer to be on my channel at 6 or just before. If you can get there sort of like 5 minutes or so before and just be refreshing it, and I will aim to start exactly at 6 next week. Hopefully that will work. So thank you so much, everybody. 19 likes and about 24, 25, 26 people consistently throughout the whole show. I appreciate that, guys. And I will leave it there. I don't think there'll be any play out music. Or if you want to hear Chanel again, just say yes in the chat and I'll play it for outro music. If you don't, that's okay too. I'll just press stop stream. But yeah, I will send out an email before the show. And yeah, I'd love to just permanently stream. That'd be great. Swearing sounds like crap. That's hilarious. All right, folks, I'm going to end it there. And okay, a few of you are now saying yes. Okay, chat is a wee bit behind. Cool. Okay, I'm going to hit this button. And I'm going to say a very good night, folks. Thank you very much for coming. And good night, everybody.
I can't wait for when you're home. There'll be wine and sweet recline. Close my eyes, see the sailors spend their pay. My heart cries, but I could never walk away.
Good night, everybody.